I'd like to say good evening to everybody. Um, well, I'm back again this evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the chat this evening. It's been a while um, since I done a class. It's kind of, I think last week I wasn't feeling too good, and so I had to take some time to kind of get over the sickness that I was feeling. I had real bad sinus. So that lasts about a good week or so, body aching and stuff like that. So I kind of spell back a little bit. And then on top of that, we run into the feast days, trumpets, Day of Atonement, which is this evening. So I like to say happy Feast of Atonement, even though we won't be feasting. It is a feast that the Lord has set aside in his word for us to observe. But specifically, what I wanted to come this evening for was to look at a day to the Lord. One reason I want to do that is because a day to the Lord is not the same as man. Let's get right into the word, and let's go over to the book of Genesis. We'll go up to Genesis chapter 1. And some people like to, think that, when it came to the creation in the beginning, that it was as far as the Lord creating the earth, the heaven and the earth, mankind, the animals, separating the waters from the waters and things like that. Some people actually think that it was actually 24-hour period. And when it comes to the Lord, his time isn't the same as ours. You know what I'm saying? So that can't be the case. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna look at it and see how this works with the Lord. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to get this stuff sorted out. Okay. All right. So his time, like I said, it's not the same as man. It wasn't a 24-hour period that the Lord used to actually create everything. It's not the same. So first and foremost, let's go look at and see how his day originates. All right, so we're in Genesis chapter 1. It says, in the beginning, God created heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light that it was good. God divided the light from the darkness. All right, so this is the first day. And, we see here that the Lord is separating light from darkness. Now, specifically, this is, like I said, regarding the day to the Lord. So it's not about going into what the waters were. I mean, what the light was in this case, but just so you know, this light that we're talking about, we like to liken it to the plan of salvation. And, so God, from the beginning, already put a plan in place to save mankind. And so this is what you're looking at, where it says God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. Now, if you pay attention to Jesus, it lets you know in John chapter 1, in the beginning was the word was God. And it also tells you further down in John 1 that John the Baptist wasn't that light. Jesus, the Word who came in the flesh, he was that light. And he would be the light for the life of all men. All right. But that John chapter 1, it refers you back to the beginning, the same beginning we read about here. But like I said, this isn't about that. This is actually, about how God determines the day. So after he separated the light from the darkness, saw that it was good. He divided the light from the darkness. And verse 5 says that God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. So the way you would determine this a day in God's eyes, the evening and the morning makes your day. This is how it starts off. In the society we live in, a day is considered, at 12 o'clock a.m. And we've been taught that once you get into 12 o'clock a.m., the middle of the night, we're in a new day. So that's not how God calculates or determines his day. And definitely outside of a 24-hour period. It has nothing to do with that. So we determine, we go by the 24-hour time period. But if you don't have a clock or a watch and nothing like that, the only thing you would have, which is good to have, you have the sun and the moon. When the sun goes down, that's going to take you into another evening, and that would actually take you into another day. All right, so this evening at sundown, we actually went into another day. Like, for instance, it's Wednesday now, right? As far as mankind is concerned, but as far as God is concerned, we're already in to the fifth day of the week. All right, so and that came about at sundown this evening. So pay attention to what it says. It says, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. Now let's go to verse 6, because we're going to see a pattern here. It says, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Skip down to verse 8, and it said, God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. So if you pay attention to the pattern is going like this: evening first, and then the morning. All right, so that would be how your day is determined, starting off with the evening. That's how God determines it, right? All right, so now let's go down a little bit further. Let's go look at. So we got the second day. We got the third day. Because it's the same now as it was back then. So when you get to observing the Lord's feast days and stuff like that, it would start in the evening. Like, for instance, let me give an example. And a matter of fact, if you even go to, if you look at a woman being unclean, right, she would be unclean for a certain amount of time. And then on the 8th day, or the 7th day at sundown, that's when she would be considered clean, because I was taken to the 8th day, coming off a monthly. All right, but just going to show you that God considers the beginning of all his days in the evening. So let's see here. All right, so now Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 32, and this is actually one of the days that the high day that we're observing this evening. All right, so let's look at this. It says, all right, so Leviticus 23 and 27, we'll start there. It says, also on the 10th day of the 7th month, there should be a day of atonement. So this is what we're observing right now. And we'll look into this tomorrow during class. But it's a day of atonement. This is a feast day that the Lord has set aside. This is not anything that Moses put together. This is what the Lord put aside. And listen, without the day of atonement, we as mankind, we have no way of being saved without the Lord shedding his blood for us. Without him dying for us, we don't have any salvation coming. But that's what this day is pointing to. We're afflicting our souls, and it's like almost in commemoration or memorial for what Jesus did for us. Also, it's a shadow of things to come. So it's very important to observe these feast days. But it said also on the 10th day of this 7 months, there should be a day of atonement. It should be a holy convocation unto you. That's a holy gathering. We're going to have church. We're going to be gathering tomorrow. And it said, you shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. So tomorrow, at sundown this evening, which is the beginning of the Lord's day, we're going to afflict our souls. So we ain't going to, we're not going to partake in bread or water. You know what I'm saying? No type of liquids, none of that. This is not a Daniel fast. And you think about it, hey, it's fair. I mean, it's way over fair because God only requires one day for us to do this, So I think you can handle one day, all right? And another place calls it a celebration anyway, so that's how we have to look at it. But he says, you shall do no work in that same day, for it is day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before the Lord your God. So we're not doing any work in this day, all right? So if you have a job, whether you're on your own business, whatever it is, there's no work to be done today. All right. Verse 29, it says, for whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. So this is a very important day. Like I was talking to a brother today, and we're discussing how the Lord has all the feast days, which all have great significance, but you look at this Day of Atonement, this is almost top of the line because Jesus died for us on this day, and he was sacrificed for the sins of man. So this is very important. So, and we have to treat it as such. But like you said in verse 30, whatsoever soul it be that doeth any work in that same day, that same soul will I destroy from among his people. So he's going to do some killing if you decide to do any work this day. All right. So verse 31 says, you shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations and all your dwellings. Right. So no matter where you are, if it was a problem, if it wasn't if it wasn't possible for you to keep it, then the Lord wouldn't let you know that, this is something you have to observe throughout your generation in all your dwellings, regardless of whether Israel is in the land or scattered. We need to be observing this day wherever we are. And that's why I say throughout your generations, that means it's going to go on. Every time a child is born, you're going to teach it to them. They're going to teach their children. And it's going to be something we're going to observe in all our dwellings. Then he said, it shall be unto your Sabbath of rest. So, I know some people like to ask, can we do certain things on this day? Listen, you treat this just like a regular Sabbath without the food and water, okay? So you ain't going to buy and sell on a regular Sabbath. We're not going to watch TV, you know what I'm saying? Besides things that God is involved in, like, for instance, we let the kids watch certain things pertaining to Israel coming out of Egypt and, things about Moses and stuff like that, or we may watch things regarding God's creation and stuff like that. But that's about it. But you're not going to get off into your own personal things, watching football or getting off into Netflix, things, which I'm not. What I mean by that is, different things outside of the Word of God that are offered on Netflix, offered on regular TV. You ain't going to get off into that. All right, so he says it's going to be until your Sabbath of rest, so just keep that in mind. And he said, you shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at evening. Now, if you go back up to, let's see here. Go back up to verse 27. He said also, now pay attention to what he says. 26 says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, also on the 10th day of the 7th month, right? So now we got the 10th day. We're still dealing with the same feast. He said, the 10th day of the 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. So right now we're in the 7th month. This is the 7th month of the Lord. All right. I know we're in September, but you look at the Julian calendar, that's the 9th month. All right, but it don't go. It's not determined by man and his calendar. It's determined by the new year, and you count 7 new moons, which is gonna bring you to the 7th month. So last week, I think last Tuesday, we were observing Memorial blowing the trumpets. That's something you do on the first day of the 7th month. Now, 10 days later, which is atonement, we're going to observe atonement. So he said on the 10th day of the 7th month, there should be a day of atonement. Now, when will we actually go into the 10th day? All right, so 32 gonna tell you. It says, "This shall be unto your Sabbath of rest, and you shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at evening." So in other words, like for instance, we now we already got the 10 there now, so we're not going to observe it on day 9 and day 10. It's just telling you, in other words, as soon as that sun go down, we going into the Day of Atonement. You understand? Because remember now, like we saw in Genesis, the evening and the morning for the Lord, that's what makes the day. So in the 9th day of the month at evening, when the sun go down, and it's gonna take us right into the evening of what? Of the 10th day. You see, that's gonna be the Day of Atonement. And he said here, shall you celebrate your Sabbath. So even though we're gonna be afflicting our souls and stuff like that, hey, it's still a celebration. You know, it's a celebration. Just a simple fact alone that we know about the Lord's feast days, about atonement and all these different holy days that he has set aside. That's a celebration within itself. But you think about it though, hey, if God never came and died for us, then we SOL, but he did die for us. So hey, that's something to celebrate. So now let's go over to let's go back to Genesis right quick. Just look at this for a second. Come back to Genesis. Get back on this pattern. So we already got the second day. God, in verse 8, Genesis 1 and 8, God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. So we got that. And that pattern, it'll continue throughout the whole chapter, all the way down to the end when the Lord finishes. So let's see here. 31. Matter of fact, let's pick it up at verse 26 when man come on the scene. He said, and God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creep upon the earth. So God created man in his image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. So man is not coming on the scene, right? Let's see here. So let's get down to it. Let's see what day this was. Verse 31. It says, and God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the 6th day, right? But notice the pattern. The evening and the morning is the 6th day. This is how God determines his day. When the sun goes down, then you go into the next day. Now, you don't got to be deep, you know what I'm saying, and act like, man's calendar don't exist, because he still put man in power. Like, for instance, he has the Gentiles ruling the world right now, and they have a system set up, and, you have to abide by that time frame as far as going to work, different things that have set up, bills and all that type of stuff. Like a lot of bills or deposits, as a matter of fact, a lot of deposits, money being deposited. A lot of that takes place at 12 o'clock on a particular day of the month. People dealing with Social Security, dealing with weekly, bi-weekly paychecks. You know what I'm saying? They do it, and they consider when they put them in or deposit them at 12 o'clock midnight, they consider that another day. Whatever date it is, it'll be 12 o'clock that night. You know what I'm saying? So when you're looking for a check or something, you know what I'm saying, you ain't gonna get your check if you're in the truth. Don't expect to get it, on God's calendar if he, at evening. You know what I'm saying? Just expect to get it like they have this set up 12 o'clock a.m., you know what I'm saying? Or after 12 o'clock midnight. Because, and my point of saying that is, don't be so deep that you act like you just don't have to pay attention to man's time. Just understand and know that, hey, we are up under man's rule right now, but God still has his system set up. His holy days, you still can observe. You know what I'm saying? His feast days, his Sabbath days, and stuff like that, you still can observe. Sundown, listen, you sundown to sundown. I mean, when the sun go down, you in another day. You can count. You have, matter of fact, you have different issues, not just with a woman, but even with somebody that has a sore or something like that. If you go back into the Bible, you go back into the Old Testament, think around Leviticus and Numbers, you even see how a man being unclean from an issue of running blood how he would have to count it. You know what I'm saying? So the count is still good. You know, it's just that, like I say, we just right now living in a time where uh, man has set up their own thing to try to supersede God. But when you come into the word, you understand, you be able to see how God actually does it. Now let's go over to Psalms chapter 90. You know, I want to actually get into this day. Psalms chapter 90. Psalms chapter 9. Let's pick this up at start this off at verse 4. Psalms 9 and verse 4, it says, "For 1,000 years in thy sight are but as yesterday when it is past, and as a watch in the night." So when it comes to the Lord, in a day, it's almost 1,000 years to the Lord is a day. And it's like with us, you know, how we look at, like I said, it's Wednesday now, really Thursday, but Wednesday now, yesterday was Tuesday, right? Well, that's how, and that was just a 24-hour period. That happened fast and it's over with. But that's how the Lord look at 1,000 years. As a, to him, 1,000 years is one day. You know what I'm saying? So it's nothing to him. And you have to realize we're dealing with somebody that's immortal, you know what I'm saying, that lives forever. So, 1,000 years is nothing to God. But this is what is a day to God. So when we was looking at that creation and stuff and how you go back and he separated the light from darkness, and then he separated the waters from the waters and put a firmament in the heavens. He did on the second day. Those were actually a 1,000-year time frame. That wasn't 24-hour time period. Those were actually 1,000-year time frames. Now let's go look at another place to verify that. And that's how this is how you build your doctrine. Go from the Old and New Testament, and it'll verify itself. But this is how you just get a witness on it. Now let's look at the 2 Peter chapter 3, and we're gonna pick it up at verse 8. It says, "But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day." So when he was creating the heavens and the earth, and when he was separating the waters from the waters and causing dry land to appear, I think around verse 13, when he put when he made two great lights in Genesis, greater light to rule the day, lesser light to rule the night. I think that was on day 4. But the point is that these were 1,000-year periods, because when it comes to God, time doesn't exist. You understand? So a day in God's eyes is not the same as a day in our eyes. That's why we're reading this. It's saying, beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. Psalm chapter 90 verse 4 tell you, "For 1,000 years in thy sight are but as yesterday when it is past." So it's like, hey, it was nothing to God. Snap your finger and this is over with for him. Just like yesterday came, just like today came. Day is gone now as far as Wednesday is concerned. Hey, that's how it's gonna be. When we look back at it tomorrow, we're gonna, like, it just flies. It's over with. And that's how it is with God when it comes to 1,000 years. You see. So now let's go to one more place. Give me 1 second. Be right back. We're gonna look at Revelation, and we'll close it out after this. All right. Thanks for being patient. All right, so now let's go to Revelation right quick, and let's see something here. All right, so now a great example of 1,000 years being a day to the Lord, right? A great example of that would be Revelation chapter 20. Well, not just 20, Revelation period. As a matter of fact, let's go back to chapter 1. I'm going to show you something. All right. Revelation chapter 1, right? Now let's see what John says. And a lot of people get this here. A lot of people get this confused. Let's see here. All right, so now check this out. This is Revelation chapter 1. And I just want to show you something. So when you hear, people like to say, well, the Lord's Day is on Sunday and stuff like that. But this ain't what he was talking about when John said this, right? Let's see. Let's get at what he was talking about. All right, so he says here, Revelation chapter 1 in verse, let's see here. All right, because, John, same one who wrote the book of John, he got revelation. The Lord showed him some things, right? And so you look at the book of Revelation, it's prophecy, giving you stuff about things that's going to happen in the future, right? So pay attention, though. He said, I was in the spirit on the Lord's day and heard behind me a great voice as of a trumpet. So, like I say, some people actually, like to say this is talking about Sunday, or some people may think that this is Lord's Day when he come and actually return and bring this war. But really what this being in the spirit on the Lord's Day is talking about, it gives you how he going to bring down the world. You know what I'm saying? It's going to take you all the way back to the beginning, what happened. It jumps around. That's what Revelation does. But at the same time, ultimately, when it's all said and done in the book of Revelation, it's going to bring you down to the Lord's day. And he's going to come and set his foot on this earth. And he's going to be on this earth for 1,000 years. That's the Lord's day. But that's what it's doing. That's what this is walking you into. Revelation is doing that. And it starts off by telling you, it goes off into the different churches and stuff like that. But when it's all said and done, it's going to get down all the way to what the Lord is going to do. As a matter of fact, and talk Jesus himself first. All right. And then he going to finish the mission. And then we're going to bring the Father into the picture. So let's go look at Revelation chapter 20 right quick. But that Revelation 1, though, before we move to Revelation 20, this is what John is getting. So the Lord is giving him a vision. It's not like he was actually there on the Isle of Patmos, because that's what he says in verse 9. He said, I, John, who also am your brother and companion in tribulation and in the kingdom of patience and patience of Jesus Christ, was in the isle that is called Patmos for the word of God and for the testimony of Jesus Christ. I was in the spirit on the Lord's day and heard behind me a great voice as of a trumpet, right? So now pay attention. So after this, he's going to go off into the 7 churches, right? Then he's going to start going off into, the seals and the wrath and the great tribulation and stuff like that. And then he's going to bring it all the way down to when the Lord going to dwell on this earth. So Revelation chapter 20, let's pick it up there. Revelation chapter 20 and verse 1. So now when the Lord's getting ready to come, Jesus getting ready to come, it says, and I saw an angel come down from heaven having a key of the bottomless pit in his hand, a bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. So this would be Michael taking down Satan. Daniel chapter 12 will verify it. But it says he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. So why is Satan going to be bound for 1,000 years? Because remember now, we going into the Lord's Day. This is the day of rest that we trying to get into. Like if you pay attention to keeping the Lord's Sabbath day, the Bible tells in Colossians chapter 2 that, these are a shadow of things to come. So if you pay attention to all this stuff we're doing, especially pertaining to the Sabbath, this is actually pointing to the 1,000-year reign that the Lord is going to come. But this is what John saw. He was in a spirit on the Lord's day. In other words, his mind was projected, or he had a vision all the way down to the Lord coming back to this earth and setting up his kingdom on this earth for 1,000 years. And that's what we saw. But before we get there, there's a lot of destruction that's going to happen, a lot of killing that's going to take place. The Lord going to take down the Gentile dynasty and stuff like that. He's going to deliver Israel out of captivity, the dead getting up from the grave. So there's a lot of things that's going to happen during this time. And Revelation gives you that, you know, it tells you that. But at the same time, you know, it also, like I said, climaxes or get, you know, when we get down to the end of Revelation, almost completing the book, John is showing you the end of what he saw. And this is when the Lord get back, he's going to dwell on this earth for 1,000 years. So that's why it says here, and he laid hold on the dragon. That dragon, we just talking about the devil, because believe it or not, he's walking, he's in the earth right now. You know, that's where you get all this evil coming from, death and murder. You know what I'm saying? Sin that's taking place. Listen, Satan is ruling it right now, and the Lord is allowing him to rule it. But before he comes and set his kingdom up on this earth, hey, you got to take down Satan. And this is where Michael comes in. So that's why he said he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, that bound him 1,000 years. So you just see all these different titles. He's not really a serpent. Some people even say that he was a serpent that walked upright. And when he messed around with Eve, the Lord took his legs from him, night crawl on his belly. That don't make no sense, but that's what Masons teach. Yeah, because I remember I first heard that, and I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. You know what I'm saying? But listen, he's an angel. And his characteristics, his behavior is described as a serpent. You know, somebody, you deal with somebody and, they happen to cross you, or they happen to be I guess, slick. You may call them a snake in the grass. You know, like my grandfather before he died. I ain't gonna say no name, but my grandfather before he died, he was kind of losing it a little bit in his mind. You know, I mean, he was, for the most part, he was all there, but you know, he was making reference to somebody, and I ain't gonna say who it was, but he said he's 90-some years old, and he called him one of his children. I ain't gonna say who it was though. But he said, you gotta watch him. He a snake in the grass. So that's a common description of somebody that's kind of slick, or a two-faced, in other words. So that's what Satan was. He was slick. He's real. He deceived the woman. And that's why he say he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. So this is one day. You see, because listen, man has 6 days to rule the world. Now we get ready to come into the Lord's time where he get ready to take over. But if you pay attention, though, it's considered 1,000 years. That's why we saw 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 8, hey, 1,000 years to the Lord is one day. Psalm chapter 9 and verse 4, 1,000 years is but as yesterday. You know what I'm saying? So when he come and rule on this earth for 1,000 years, hey, that's actually a day. But that's a Sabbath day that the Lord gonna rule on this earth, sisters and brothers. So it says he cast him to the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed and little seen. So what's gonna happen during this time? During this time, it's gonna be number peace on this earth for 1,000 years. That's what's gonna be going on. But that's, like I say, that's a day to God. So you go back in time. If you look back in history, we've been around. You know what I'm saying? Like some people like to say mankind has been here for millions and millions of years. Man has not been here that long. Man has been around on this earth for about, 6,000 years. We get ready to, we close to the 7th day coming into the picture. That's why if you pay attention, a lot of things are starting to pick up. The sin is starting to get out of hand now. You know what I'm saying? The killing is getting out of hand. At the same time, though, hey, the Lord got his people waking up. And that should let you know that this day, this 6th day, is almost over. We get ready to walk into the 7th day. But the point is, hey, mankind only been around 6,000 years. You know, so you can go back in time and look at it, and you'll see that we didn't exist before that. You see? So let's see here. But this will be the 7th day when the Lord gets back, and he gonna take Satan down for 1,000 years. All right, so now verse 5, verse 4. Hold on, did we do 3? I'm trying to think. Did we do all that? All right, now hold your finger here. Go to Isaiah chapter 14, just to show you that this 7th day, or this 1,000-year reign that the Lord is going to have on this earth, that's actually, like I said, it's a Sabbath day. And it's also the 7th day. It's a 7th day, but it's in God's time. So now let's see here. Isaiah 14, we're going to come back to Revelation. Let's look at something. We're going to start at verse 1 and we'll move around. Isaiah 14:1 says, "For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob." That's what's going to happen. You know, that's coming soon. "And the people shall take them and bring them to their place in the house of Israel. In the house of Israel." Hold on 1 second, y'all. Hold on. The right one. All right, so middle verse 2. I got some more. Goodness gracious. It says, "And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives whose captives they were. They shall rule over their oppressors." So the table's gonna turn. Right now, Israel in captivity at the bottom of the barrel, but eventually the Lord gonna bring them back, and everybody that oppressed them, you know, as far as the nations are concerned as a whole, hey, Israel gonna be on top. All right, and they're gonna end up working for the slave. That's unheard of, but this is what the Bible is prophesying of. So they say they're going to take them captives whose captives they were. They shall rule over their oppressors. And it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve, right? Because right now we've been in captivity. We've been in hard bondage for a long time. We may not be, you know, working as far as like with the chains around our neck physically, but spiritually, we still in this bondage, you know. And like I like to say, over here in America, we got it a lot better than other places. But, you know, once, like it was said back in the day, and Master sick, we sick. Right now, Master ain't sick, but when Master gets sick, hey, who's going to be the first one he coming for? He coming for the slave. But the Lord going to break that when he returns. That's why he says it's going to come to pass. And the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear and from the hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve, that thou should take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how hast the oppressor ceased, the golden city ceased. So we're just talking about Babylon falling. But even though Babylon is in power, ruling, they have a king behind the scenes that's actually ruling Babylon. And that king is Satan. Ezekiel chapter 28, it'll also give you Ezekiel chapter 28. You can read that on your own, but it also give you reference to the prince of Persia. Then as you read further down in Ezekiel 28, it makes reference to the king of Tyre. Read further down in Ezekiel 28, then he calls him the prince, the king of Tyre. First he called him the prince, then they call him the king. Because eventually that's what's going to happen. You're a prince, you're going to become a king. But this is the one that's behind the scene. You know, he was behind the scene back then. Every time a rulership come up, guess who's behind the scene? Satan is. Just like with it, besides, as far as the Gentile dynasty is concerned, what I've seen. But now that we in dealing with Babylon behind the scene is Satan. All right, but now God is coming back to take them down. Because remember now, we coming here because we just saw in Revelation that the Lord going to take down this serpent, that old serpent called the devil and Satan. They're going to take him down for 1,000 years. And like I told you, that's going to be a day, that's the Lord's Sabbath day. So Isaiah 14 is just going to confirm that. All right, so it say that it'll come to pass when he's going to take this hard bondage off of us when we're made to serve. Then he says that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how have the oppressor ceased, the golden city ceased, because Babylon gonna fall. But it says, the Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted and none hindered, right? Then it says, the whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. But how is that going to happen, though? Only way the whole earth can be at rest and, the world break forth into singing, you know what has to happen? Hey, Satan got to be taken out. And that's what you seeing taking place in Revelation chapter 20. Hey, Satan going to get taken out. That's why in Revelation 20, go back over there, it says, and I saw an angel come down from heaven having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. But we just saw in Isaiah 14 that that's a day of rest. Remember now, we're looking at how a day to the Lord is 1,000 years. This is how he determined his time. It's not the same as ours. Back to the creation, when he created the world, it was 1,000 years. Every day was 1,000 years. Every day was 1,000 years. When he created, separated heavens and earth, when he brought the sun and the moon, 1,000 years. When he separated the light from darkness, 1,000 years. When he brought man into the picture, 1,000 years. When he rested on the seventh day, 1,000 years. So that's how God time is. So all the way down to us, we gonna rest with God for 1,000 years. That's a representation of the Sabbath day. And that's why Isaiah 14 was telling you, hey, the whole earth is at rest. Because what you do on the Sabbath, you rest. All right. So now back to Revelation 20, verse 4, it says, and I saw thrones and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus and for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. But the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. But this is what John is saying on the Lord's day. This is what he's saying. But he even saw the Lord's day going into the Father getting ready to come. Because it's going to take us to, matter of fact, it's going to take us into the 8th day. You see? But the dead, because we got 2 resurrections going on, it tells you in verse 5, but the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years was finished. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is he that have part in the first resurrection, or such the second of have no power, but they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. So we're going to reign with God for a whole day, not a 24-hour time period. We're going to reign with God for 1,000 years. So this is why it's so important for us to observe the Lord's Sabbath, to observe the Lord's feast days, to do exactly what he tells us. Because listen, we trying to enter into the Lord's rest. Hebrews will tell you that. I don't know, boy. I don't know why I'm trying to rest this. It's really no need. It ain't like I gotta go to bed. It ain't like I gotta get up and go to work in the morning. That's what I mean. Hebrews chapter 4. Let's go look at something. Because this is what we're working for. We're trying to get into that 1,000 year, or we're trying to get into that day. So Hebrews 4:1, it says, let us therefore fear, lest the promise being left of us, entering into his rest, any of you should seem to come short of it. So we're working toward getting into the Lord's rest, right? We saw in Isaiah chapter 14 that there's a rest coming, right? But in order for this rest to happen, the king of Babylon, he going to be taken out. The golden city going to cease. Then everybody going to be, hey, they say they're going to break forth into singing. Because you ain't got to worry about killing no more. You know what I'm saying? I mean, on the level that it is now. Because the Lord's still going to be knocking people off. I tell you that. It says sinner going to die, be accursed at 100 years old. But he going to bring long life back into the picture. But at the same time, listen, he said the whole earth going to be at rest. So Satan going to be taken out for 1,000 years. So Hebrews 4:1 is letting us know, therefore, Let us therefore fear, lest the promise being left of us entering into his rest, any of you should seem to come short of it. So, just like he told our forefathers back in Psalm chapter 95, hey, they dropped the ball. And he told them, he said, in Psalm 95, it tell you, he swore in his wrath that they should not enter into his rest. Right? So in Hebrews, it's telling us, it's warning us, hey, you need to have some fear, lest the promise being left of us enter into his rest. Listen, you mess around and fall and come short of it also. So verse 2 says, for unto us was the gospel preached, as well as unto them, but the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it. For we which have believed do enter into rest, as he said, as I've sworn in my wrath, if they shall enter into my rest. Although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. So in other words, we got another day of rest that is coming. Hey, because the Lord rested from his works. But mankind ain't never had a chance to rest. That sin jumped on the table, now look at us. So hey, Satan been on us. But we looking for this day of rest though. That's why we have to make sure we, do exactly what the Lord is telling us to do. Unless you mess around and fall short, But even though we're talking about a day of rest, hey, he said, for we which have believed do enter into rest, as he said, as I have sworn in my wrath, if they shall enter into my rest, although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. So we're talking about a rest that's going to take place, even though the Lord already rested. I'll tell you that in Genesis, that he rested from his work. But the writer going to tell you that. He said, for he spake in a certain place of the seventh day on this wise or in this manner, and God did rest the seventh day from all his work. So you go back to Genesis and you see that, right? And in this place again, Psalm 95, if they shall enter into my rest. So we still talking about a day of rest, In other words, hey, it's another rest that is coming. That's why it's saying verse 6, seeing therefore it remain that some must enter therein, and they to whom it was first preached enter not in because of unbelief. So the ones that he was talking to in the book of, in the Old Testament, they ain't gonna get in there. Now he didn't say they won't get into the kingdom of God. He just said they ain't gonna enter into his rest. So they won't be in the 1,000-year millennium, put it that way. Now you don't want to mess around and drop the ball and put yourself up under that same predicament, but this is a day that we're trying to get into. That's why he said, listen, he said again, he limited a certain day, saying in David, today, after so long a time, as it is said, today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts. That's what he's saying to us. When you hear the word come, hey, do what the word say. Don't try to make no excuses. Don't try to finagle out of it like you have some people try to, finagle out of keeping the Lord's feast days. Listen, you can't get out of doing what God tell you to do. There's no excuse around it. There's no gray area with God at all. All right? You just going to have to take whatever comes with serving God. And it's the same for all of us across the board. All right, so he says, what again? He limited a certain day, saying today, after so long a time, as it is said, today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts. For if Jesus, and we're really just talking about Joshua here, if Jesus had given them rest, then would he have not afterward have spoken of another day? So listen, when Moses came, Moses had the children of Israel, took them through the wilderness for 40 years. And then after he died, the Lord didn't allow him to go into the promised land. He saw it from afar off, but he didn't allow him to go into the promised land. And the one who came up right after him in his stead was Joshua. But they still didn't enter into that rest though. That's why he's saying, for if Jesus, like I said, it's a translation talking about Joshua and Jesus, they translate, Joshua translate to Jesus. All right. But it says, for if Jesus had given them rest, then would he not afterward have spoken of another day? So we wouldn't be still talking about entering into his rest if that was the rest when they went into the promised land. That wasn't it though. So since that wasn't it, what does it say? There remained therefore a rest of the people of God. So this rest that we're talking about, it's a Sabbath day. It's a Sabbath day that man is actually going to be able to chill from his work, because this is all we know. We've been working. But how long are we going to go into this Sabbath day? It ain't going to be a 24-hour period. It's going to be 1,000 years of rest, sisters and brothers. Then afterward, that's when the Father going to come. But this is what John was seeing. All right. So I just wanted to point that out to you, what a day to the Lord was, and hopefully to help out with, dealing with the Sabbath and stuff like that, dealing with feast days, so you know how to count it and stuff. Sundown is when you go into a new day. All right. So that's how you determine in God's eyes when it comes to feast day and stuff like that, not 12 o'clock midnight. So today or this evening when the sun went down, you should have been ceased from all your work, no cooking. If you was going to eat, but ate something before sundown. You're going to drink water, you should drink something before sundown. Because now we go into the Day of Atonement and we're afflicting our souls. And it'll be sundown again tomorrow before you know it. So it's Lord ain't asking for much. So just keep that in mind. And I just like to say happy Feast of Atonement to everybody. And peace in Jesus' name.